Alright, here we are for our first round, and we are actually just playing 2-player queues because the 8-player queues had no players and we're not looking like they were going to fire. So one thing that is often true in 2-player queues is you have a higher chance of running into some really weird decks. So we'll see what's out there. This hand is pretty bad. We don't even have a fetch land to get an actual useful land. Horizon Canopy is a little awkward as our only land along with the Hierarch. We're gonna go ahead and mulligan this. Well, we're definitely mulliganing this as well, since it has no ability to cast a single spell. All right, this hand is good. All right, so we're keeping it fair. Both of us mulliganing to 5. As far as openings go, can't really do much better than this opening hand with a 5-card hand. And our opponent, all right, an island. Against a turn 1 island, I'm going to play Knight of the Reliquary here. Against some opening lands for my opponent, I would just play the Kasali Pride Mage and hope to draw a fetch to play Knight. But against an island, we have to be worried about Spell Snare, and we're less worried about damage-based removal killing Knight. So we're just going to take our damage here and play the Knight. The reason I got a Stomping Ground for my first land, even though I have Knight, is that A, we don't know what our opponent's actually playing. We could have just led with Temple Garden into Noble Hierarch, but we wanted to have the opportunity to draw another fetch to be able to make a 4/4 Knight in turn 2. Okay, our opponent has just immediately conceded. Not a particularly interesting game. We don't really have very much information, so it's hard to actually sideboard against just an island. I'm going to bring in Choke because we know that will be useful. Other than that, I'm gonna take out Lightning Helixes. Helixes are unlikely to be good against any sort of blue deck, other than Merfolk or something. My guess is that Thalia and Thrun could be good, but it's hard to actually make these sort of determinations. One of the possible decks that my opponent could be playing is if he's just playing having just played an island is Splinter Twin. The Splinter Twin is the sort of deck that could possibly win from that position. But I guess if he had no second land, it's very and no combo, he probably wasn't going to win. Bring in the Thrun. Maybe I take out 2 Storm Breaths for 2 Thalias. Blue decks tend to be spell heavy. We don't really have any information. We don't want to do too much and potentially over sideboard without appropriate information. Maybe I'll board out 1 Storm Breath for 1 Thalia and just sort of see where we are. Don't really want to remove Path or Bolt because again, our opponent could be playing something like Merfolk, and our removal spells could actually be quite good. So I'm gonna go ahead and try this, and we'll see what our opponent's actually playing. The sort of very low information sideboarding situations are definitely kind of interesting. All right, so this is a pretty good hand. We're gonna go ahead and keep. We have fetch into fetch bird, and then turn to Knight, which can potentially lead to. Oh, okay, actually our opponent is blue red. It's oh, actually maybe he's just what in the world? He played a basic. Wow, we boarded out. We boarded out Lightning Helix, and our opponent plays a turn 1 Swift Spear. That was not what I expected to happen when my opponent played Island and then conceded. Well, we are certainly sideboarded incorrectly. We're gonna draw Choke. Gataxium Probe. Okay, so this is like blue-white-red aggro burn style of deck that apparently has a basic island in it. This is when my birdie's getting bolted. All right, well, that's a high damage Swift Spirit here. All right, well, I'm just gonna play this Tarmogoyf, who is quite large. And get basic planes. Play Goyf. another Swift Spear. Okay. And my opponent seems to be okay. Only only one land again. Well, I'm just gonna basic. This is clearly my opponent is playing a very aggressive deck, and I don't want to take more damage than I need to. I'm gonna leave the turn, we'll get back to block, and then we're gonna use Knight to potentially play Dragons. Oh, all right. Well, that was about the least interesting match of Modern I've ever played. We're probably just gonna do an extra one in literally 5 minutes. The opponent played like 3 cards in the match. We'll do an extra match to make up for that. But yeah, I mean that is one thing that is certainly the case with a deck like Naya, with how difficult it is for a lot of opponents to actually come back from an active Knight of the Reliquary. Like once Knight gets online, if your opponent doesn't remove it right away, it not only represents a huge individual threat, but it can also represent a growing threat and a threat of card advantage through things like Canopy, as well as mana acceleration, as well as the threat of closing out the game with Keswick Wolfrun. So, yeah, our opponent was just kind of had mana problems, didn't really do anything, but because we had something as threatening as Knight of the Reliquary that can end the game in such short order, we were able to, force a concession may be strong, but we were able to get a concession in both games anyway. So I'm gonna maybe see if there's an 8-player queue we can jump into. But other than that, see if we can find some more opponents.